Well, Bob Ellis is with me again today, and Bob, today we want to talk about guns.
It's the hot topic.
Well, it seems to be. And, you know, in western South Dakota, you and I grew up around guns. Guns never threatened us, even as little children, because we were taught to respect them, to handle them respectfully and with safety in mind. What's happened?
Most of all, we were taught, I think, to respect human life. Anytime you use a tool, you have to be aware of what that tool is properly used for and the bad things that can happen when you misuse that tool, whether it be a gun or a car, a knife, whatever. I think that's probably the most important thing, is that back then parents made sure to teach their children that you don't point a gun at something that you don't intend to shoot. You certainly don't point it at a person that's not threatening you. Kids just don't seem to be taught that same respect for human life anymore.
You know, I was driving down the street near a school earlier today, and I slowed even a little bit more as three young men began to cross the street. You slow up and you stop and you let them cross. But these three young men wanted me to know that they were in charge, and they didn't just walk across, they began to strut and slow down and almost stop in front of me, as if to say, don't you even think about challenging us.
Yeah.
Well, I rolled down the window and we had a short conversation.
I'm sure it was edifying.
Yes, oh, it was, yeah. But the point is that the younger generation has not been taught the same respect that you and I grew up with.
No, I think that much is evident in so many ways. Just casual contacts, like you mentioned there, all the way to the recent tragic shooting in Connecticut. They're just not taught all the way from manners to important things like respect.
Our pastor was talking about when now in school, when kids misbehave, they're sent to timeout. And when he was young, growing up, there was timeout too. His mother or his father would take timeout to whoop them if they didn't behave.
I got time with a paddle or something like that.
There was timeout.
Yeah.
But when it comes to guns, now guns have been made to be the villain, when in reality it's the heart of men that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. It's real easy to demonize an inanimate object because that object obviously can't defend itself. And of course, to some people who didn't grow up around guns, aren't used to them, they may appear scary, so it's easy to capitalize on that emotionalism and take things off in a direction that may have political agendas behind it, and it's certainly not a logical, thought-based process.
You know, when we look at learning, education, schools, we see in classrooms, in colleges, where gun violence it's become the headline on the news. I'm just wondering, what if, when students are busy looking at the books and someone comes through the door with a weapon, with malice in their heart, what would happen if a teacher could open up the book and defend the classroom? What would the net result of that be, my friend?
We'd have a lot different outcome than we've seen in many situations in the news.
Isn't that the truth? And a responsible gun owner could easily have a concealed weapon, whether it would be a janitor, whether it would be a principal, whether it would be a teacher. There are responsible gun owners who would defend and save lives, but instead we have gun-free zones. That's basically a free pass for criminals and villains, isn't it?
It is, because they know that they're not going to face any consequences. They can come into that situation on their terms, with their agenda, their timetable, and do whatever they want, realizing that there's not going to be any serious opposition.
Well, just a short message to all of you gun owners in America. We believe the Second Amendment provides for protection, not just against villains in the classroom, not just against criminals in our homes, but against a tyrannical government. And Bob, let's pray that we don't ever get to that point where we have to raise arms to defend our liberty but it looks like it's on the horizon.
That's the reason the founders put the Second Amendment there in the first place.
Well, certainly something to think about. Thanks for watching today.